Alright, as it seems to be a tradition around here, for every video I do that gets through the smoke and mirrors of suppression of free speech, that is the YouTube demonetization system, I have to do a video that rides the line of risky so hard it grinds its pelvis into dust and continues to mop the floor with its flaps. Just like I have to tone back my language in video so it'll be shared around by YouTube robots more, which will allow my channel to grow, I sometimes gotta let my hair down and get this beautiful willy of mine out and let the air at it. So consider this one of those videos.
Baby, let me bang your box. Baby, let me bang your box.
So back when I was about 19, I had this girlfriend. For sake of this video, we'll call her Sinead, because that was her name and I haven't spoken to her in about 10 years, so who the fuck cares? Now, the two notable things about Sinead was, she was good looking and she was good in bed. But realistically, she deserves no admiration for that because anybody can become a jockey if you ride enough horses, and to say she frequented the stables would be a fucking understatement. This one was an absolute slut, and not even the good kind that'll fuck your brains out after a 10-minute conversation and a little bit of booze just because you complimented her shoes. No, she was one of those who was... well, all of that, but she had a boyfriend. It's a pity sluts typically cheat. If they didn't, I honestly wouldn't have a bad word to say about them. There's too many uppity bitches these days that put sex on a pedestal and make it impossible for fellas to actually enjoy the company of females without feeling like they're locked in a game of fucking Minesweeper for sake of the ride. Look, I get it. I'm not saying fuck every nonce that comes your way with a cheeky grin, but don't treat it as some sort of reward to be earned. Like he needs to feel honoured to be given this, pretending like it's all for his benefit and you get no enjoyment out of bouncing on a nice stiff rod. That's why sluts need to be respected, just not the cheating ones. But anyway, so Sinead was very fond of the ride. She'd wake up in the morning foaming at the mouth for the want of a pumping. It was a 2 to 3 times a day kind of deal, and given I was a 19-year-old ducky, I was only happy to put my lad in the line, as you do. Now she was on the pill, but I'm a paranoid duck and I have no desire in having kids, and as a bloke coming up you hear way too many horror stories about women sneakily not taking the pill and poking holes in condoms so they can get pregnant so the fella won't leave them. So with that in mind, I took care of getting and hanging onto the condoms. Because we were at it all the time, I'd only ever pick up a 12-pack of condoms, or a family box as I like to call them. Now, on one occasion in the shops, they had this variety box of condoms. It was a 12-pack with different condoms in it. You had your standard, your flavoured, your ribbed, your dotted, the ones that made it feel like you just slipped it into Frosty's back passage, the ones that say tingle but they actually burn, and lastly, these ones called Performa, which apparently make you last longer. Don't worry, we'll come back to these. They are the fucking star of the show. So I picked up this variety box and we made our way through them over the coming days. Coming days. But since we were at it like 3 times a day, lasting long wasn't really a priority. Like every other bloke, I followed the rule of, this first one's for me, I'll get you later. So since I had no real use for the Performa condoms, I didn't really use them. So on one fateful night, I decided to change things up and take her to a local church so we could confess our sins of premarital bouncy bounce in front of God himself. Or was it that her parents were home and I wanted to bang her in the back seat of a quiet car park? Look, all I know is somebody was definitely screaming, oh God, anyway. So things get hot and heavy as they tend to do when women find out I'm actually naked under all these feathers. We leap into the back seat of the car and assume the least flattering positions you'll ever do. The bloke sitting with his pants around his ankles in the seated position like he's about to have a shit, and the girl on top of him with her head to the side to avoid the car roof, looking like a dog doing his best trying to understand English. So I grab a condom from the box, but since we were at it like it was the last day in the casting couch, there was only the Performa condoms left. But it stopped children and I was Randy, so I could have been coated in fucking Frank's Red Hot for all I cared. It wasn't going to stop me. So with the Johnny on, I lobbed the knob into her and pumped away for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then something started to happen. Something strange. My knob started to feel a bit weird. I couldn't quite tell what it was, but it kept getting worse. I was thinking it kind of felt like when you fall asleep on your arm and then you wake up and you can't feel it. You see, that's when it hit me. My cock was actually getting numb. So putting 2 and 2 together, I realised that the Performa condom makes you last longer in bed because there's anaesthetic in the lube that's coated in the inside of the condom, meaning it numbs your cock, so essentially you're getting less stimulated, thus you last longer. Which sounds clever in theory, but I think they may have been a bit too liberal with this particular condom, because eventually I couldn't feel anything. I was completely numb, and as a result I started to lose the horn, and no amount of thinking about her attractive aunt or Father O'Dwyer was doing anything to change that. I was less than half cocked. I was pushing a marshmallow into a piggy bank. I was playing pool with a rope. Obviously she had noticed, especially when I had lost so much structure that she was able to eject me by clenching. Now thankfully I'm not a shy man with sex, so I explained to her what had happened and how I can't actually feel anything down there because of the condom, and we both had a bit of a laugh. To be fair, it is quite funny, but the trooper that she was in bed, she decided to take that numb cock as a challenge and took it upon herself to try finish me off in spite of that. To be fair, you have to admire that level of passion for her craft and that dedication to the art of rod. I'm sure that deserves a tip of the hat from every man in the audience. So she got off me, pulled the Johnny off my clearly now depressed lad, and did what us Irish call lob de gob on my knob. A suck job, for those of you still confused, and proceeded to give me some top shelf head for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then something strange started to happen, and I feel like a few of you might be ahead of me on this one. So you know the lube that coated the inside of the condom? It had coated my dick, which was now currently in her mouth. And wouldn't you know, her entire mouth became numb. She realised right away when she eventually popped back up and had a very noticeable lisp. I laughed so fucking hard. Yeah, the whole situation was absolutely hilarious, but the thing that had really tickled me was when I had dropped her home 5 minutes later and she was still slurring her words and dribbling out the side of her mouth. You couldn't hide it, so I don't know what she told her parents, but honestly, what could you say? It's either I did hard narcotics or look at your mother and father dead in the eye and tell them that your mouth is numb because you sucked an anaesthetic dick. So there you quacked up fuckers go. Another definitely demonetized video. If you enjoy these more dirty fucking videos, consider helping me and my channel out by supporting me on Patreon. I love making these videos, and honestly I will continue to make them with or without Patreon, but it would be nice to make them without having to worry about losing out on the little bit of ad revenue that I do get. So if you want to help support me, I have a link in the blurb below. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you lads and ladies in the next one.